just hope that when people see this episode, they see that it's okay to ask for help.
I think at Hollyoaks, we don't shy away from telling stories that are extremely relevant, extremely to the moment.
I think that's what the episode's trying to get across, is there's always somebody out there that will listen. You're not alone.
The key takeaway for particularly a young trans person, there's always hope. You know, there has to be.
I'm Nick and I play Tony in Hollyoaks.
I'm Ava and I play Ro in Hollyoaks.
Ro, what did you do?
Nothing. At the start of the episode, Ro is clearly upset about something, but you don't really know what. And you start seeing a messaging this person called Nina. Nina?
Ro? Oh, come here.
And he thinks he's going to run away with her, but she doesn't want to run away with him. And Ro declines the help that Nina tries to give him.
You know, my dad made me go to one of those last year. All they do is talk about how great it is to be trans. They don't talk about bullying. They don't talk about fearing for your life.
He bumps into Kathleen Angel, who notices that he's a bit out of character. He breaks down.
What does that mean? It means I want the noise to stop.
And he goes to the dog, and he's in his old room, and he's contemplating suicide. But then he phones up helpline and he gets the support he needs from a very nice person called Eve.
Hello, you're through to the helpline project. What would you like to talk about today?
My name's Emma Franklin, and I was the writer of this episode, and also I played the part of Eve, the telephone call operator.
Would you like to tell me your name?
So the inspiration for this storyline, I think, comes from as always, from the real situation that we see happening around us. We've got this long-running storyline with Ro, who's a trans teenager. We know that things are really difficult right now for trans young people. You only have to listen to trans young people to hear that. They're asking for help, they're saying that things are not okay. And obviously we want to be authentic in the way that we're talking about these issues. And one of the big challenges, I think, facing trans young people is, what do you do with this constant negativity, that it can feel like there's no hope, it can feel like there's no way out.
All I've ever done is try to be my true self and live my life to its fullest. I don't understand why everyone has such a problem with that.
One of the big issues when you're part of a demographic that is constantly becoming political pawns or constantly having lots of comments about them online and lots of negativity is obviously mental health and how trans young people look after themselves. And we know that, tragically, a lot of the negativity directed towards trans young people can lead to people feeling helpless, exploring suicidal ideation, and not knowing where to turn to. The inspiration is, how do we honor that? How do we tell this story? What do people do? How can we help someone? What would happen if they do try and turn and take that help? And what I'm really proud of with the storyline, I think that we don't turn away from the issues that are facing trans young people today, but also we do show some concrete alternatives and ways that you can help and reach out. If you're feeling low, why don't you try and call a helpline, specifically signposting towards an LGBTQ helpline.
I think that Ro phones a helpline because deep down, he doesn't want to go. And I think that phoning the helpline was kind of like his cry for help. He was still kind of holding on for the chance that there could be hope for him. And there was. And he called the helpline and things got better.
And we wanted to show the journey of, okay, what happens if you are someone who calls one of these hotlines, one of these helplines? If you're a young person, if you're a trans young person, what's likely to happen?
Anything you say here is up to you and totally confidential. You could even make up a name if you prefer. So what's prompted you to call us today?
So yeah, the research was phenomenal, and I had conversations with volunteers who work for Samaritans, with some volunteers who work for Papyrus, which is a phone line specifically for young people experiencing crisis. Had conversation with a volunteer from LGBT Switchboard, and it felt like each of these services, like the work they're doing is amazing, and the crossover of what everybody said was so similar. And really, you know, here are people, they're volunteers mostly, they're giving up their time to be there because we know the power that a conversation has to change someone's path, to alter the route that they're on. And so we wanted to see what happens if, if this person, if Ro is in crisis, they're going to call this number. What can you expect? And I think that then inspired the choice to let those scenes be really long, really spacious. Actually, there was something that one of the volunteers said about, sometimes I just say, I'm happy to sit here with you in silence, and we sit in silence for 20 minutes. Now, obviously, we're not going to sit in silence for 20 minutes in Hollyoaks where you've got everything's rolling all the time, but having those moments in there, I think, hopefully brings a level of authenticity and signposts to people. Look, if you do call this number, this is how they might help you. This is what you can expect.
Are you calling with thoughts of suicide?
Yeah.
There's lots of those scenes between the call handler and Ro that did come directly from those research conversations. One thing that everyone consistently said was, when we're speaking about suicides, we just go in the front door. We don't beat around the bush. There's so much shame and apology, I think, attached with suicidal ideation or, being in that moment of crisis. And everyone was like, we just come out with it. We say, are you feeling suicidal? Are you having thoughts of suicide? And that really inspired me. I'm not sure I necessarily would have felt as bold to write that.
So Eve basically guides Ro through what is good in his life. He makes him question the things that maybe he's not thinking about in that moment.
We were really interested to see what's the turning point. If this, Ro calls, they're in this moment, they feel like they're going to do something to harm themselves. What is it that takes them off that trajectory? And the person that we spoke to was we're just trying to find, what is it in your life? Is there something positive? Is there a different route? Of course, for Ro, it's his family.
It's gonna be okay, isn't he?
Hey, do you and me by his side? Of course he is. Come on.
Tony is really comedic, and he really is quite masculine, and I'm pretty sure Ro really does admire that and wants to be like his dad.
I'm very masculine.
Very masculine. Very masculine.
I like that. I don't think Tony's ever been referred to as masculine before, has he?
Ro has this amazing family. Ro has these 2 amazing parents, has these siblings. They're surrounded by so many people that love them. And so it was finding the natural way for that to come out in conversation. And I really loved that, so many times that we see Diane or Tony coming in and being the hero and saving the day, and the fact that actually was still what happens in this scene, even though they are off camera. It's just what they've done before. And
Can you tell me a little bit more about what they're like?
Well, my dad thinks he's hilarious all the time. Me and my siblings make fun of him quite a lot, but to be honest, he's actually really funny. He always stands up for me. And my mum, she's been through a lot, but she's so strong.
And for me, that in the scene, that's the moment where it turns, because Rose remembered Tony's daft dad jokes and silly humour, and that gives them that moment to smile and pause. And from that point on, I sort of feel like you think, okay, it's probably going to be okay.
Bro, what did you do?
Nothing. Are you sure? You haven't hurt yourself or anything?
At the end of the episode, Diane and Tony come in and they spot Ro on the ground. Obviously they're crying because they're worried about the son. Ro reassures him that he's okay and that he loves him and that everything is all right.
I thought about it, but then I spoke to a person on the phone and they helped me. Listen, I know this feeling will pass and I don't want to do it. I was wrong about everything. I need you both. I want to be here.
And then, from then on, they all
And happily ever after. Well, never happily ever after in Hollyoaks, is it? But as happy as it can be for the week we're in.
I mean, there's something really beautiful, actually, with the creation of the Lilac line in our show as an LGBT helpline, because I think particularly within the queer community, there's a history of these helplines, and it goes back 50, 60 years to when it was very hard for LGBTQIA+ people to find each other, to find community. we didn't have the internet, like, spoiler. And these phone lines, there would be phone lines in different cities that people would use, and they'd use them, and they still are there for crisis, but also for community, for I just need to talk to another queer person, I need to speak to someone else who understands, who gets it. There's so many reasons that you would reach out. And I think that, you know, it is actually a beautiful tradition, a beautiful history of supporting each other. And I feel really pleased that we honoured that. And I like that it's kind of a little Easter egg within the episode that we named the service the Lilac Line, which was inspired by the Lavender Line, which was the original LGBT switchboard down in Brighton and Hove.
I think that it's extremely important that we listen to younger people nowadays, because it's just so secretive, especially with social media and how like easy it is to hide things nowadays. Anybody could be going through anything behind closed doors and you just wouldn't know.
I think that's what the episode's trying to get across, is that there's plenty of places you can go to get support.
The key takeaway for, you know, any person, but particularly a young person, particularly a young trans person, is that there is hope. You know, it might feel that there isn't. Things can feel really daunting, especially at the moment, but there's always hope. You know, there has to be. You know, my advice would be, if you feel there's no one that you can speak to, if you feel that for whatever reason it's too scary to speak to the people around you, it's too, like, you don't want to upset your friends, you think that they're going to be too worried, use these phone lines.
There's always somebody out there that will listen. You're not alone.
And the people are always going to accept you, and help is always going to be available as well. You're never alone.
Why is this an important story? I mean, I think at Hollyoaks we don't shy away from telling stories that are extremely relevant, extremely to the moment. I think there's a crisis. There is a crisis for the trans community. It's been growing for a while now, particularly for trans young people. There's a lot of focus, there's a lot of scrutiny, a lot of people having opinions on what they should or should not do with their bodies. There's so much misinformation out there about what trans young people go through, what the expectations on them are, what the pressures on them are. And I really think that the fundamental thing that people need to do is stop and listen to trans young people and see what are they actually saying. And I'm really proud that with this episode, that's what we did. You know, I spoke with trans young people. I was like, look, here's what's happening with Ro. What would you say to Ro? What would be the advice that you would give? And the experiences that are in this program are in this episode come directly from those conversations. The character of Nina, which came from conversations that I had with trans young people. I do feel that we're representing a topic that is happening now, but we're doing it from a place of authenticity, and that is just listen to what trans kids are telling you.
If you or anyone you know would like some help and support, please contact channel4.com/support-Hollyoaks for more information.